Hi folks, here we are again. Welcome to today's edition of our videocast, My Life with Robert Burns. We're pleased you could join us. I'm Douglas Mackenzie, and joining me in our conversation with today's guest is Jim Thompson. Hi Jim.
Hi Douglas.
Jim and I are friends and colleagues from Newcomer Burns Club. So, what we're going to be doing today, let me tell you about it. Okay, we're using Zoom to talk to our friends from around the Burns world, and we thought you'd be interested in our conversation. Our guest, Crony, today really needs no introduction, as she's extremely well known around the Burns world. Crony's everywhere. To tell us about her life with Robert Burns, please welcome Jane Brown.
Good evening, gentlemen. How lovely to see you, and thank you very much for having me here tonight on your podcast. I'm absolutely humbled. It's lovely.
Thank you very much, Jane. And thanks for agreeing to be a guest on My Life with Robert Burns. How are you today?
Yes, I'm fine. Could do with better weather, but the sun's out here in Dumfries now, but it's been peeing down all day, as they say.
It's been the same in Ayrshire, so it's brightened up a bit tonight, but it's not been very nice. For those that don't already know you, Jane, how about telling us a little bit about yourself?
Right, well, I'm in 1950. I was born in Cresswell in Dumfries. I was born in Dumfries, but I was brought up and lived in Sanquhar, and went to school at Sanquhar as well. And then secondary school, I went to Dumfries High School because it's very sporty, and they had the inter games there for all the different schools in Dumfries and Galway, and I fell in love with the school and the sporting facilities, so I applied myself more at school in my first year, and you got a chance then, if you did well in your first year at secondary, you could go to the Academy for Languages or Dumfries High School for Sports and Secretarial, and that's what I did. It was the sports that drew me. But
what was your favourite sport?
Running, normally running and jumping, long jump, high jump in the relays and the running and the sprints. And I played hockey as well. I was the goalie a lot of times.
That was dangerous in hockey.
But my family in Sanquhar date back. My mother's family were Cunninghams, and they dated back to the Covenanter days. So they've got a lot of history with Sanquhar. And her father, my grandfather, and his father before him were clockmakers in Sanquhar. And they had a watchmaker shop in Sanquhar for years, and they made the Cunningham clock, which you can't get your hands on now. They're very rare, I believe. Be nice to have one. But a lovely story of my family is my great-grandfather was put a wager down in the hotel or the pub, whatever, at the inn that night, because he was a great walker. And the wager was that he could walk across the hills from Glasgow to Sanquhar and beat the stagecoach. And I've even got a newspaper cutting of it, and he beat the stagecoach by, I think it was 10 minutes, by walking across the hills. And the stagecoach came through Sanquhar, yeah, horse and stagecoach game. So there's lots of family stories, go way back in history, so it's quite nice.
So you'll be following Willie Dalgleish with his down memory lane on Facebook.
And I'm looking at a lot of things that when we're out of lockdown now, and I'm going to take up and just donate to the museum that are to do with the Cunninghams and all the Sanquhar history there. Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So then, what did you carry on, sorry?
Well, that was the high school, and I went on to Tech, and then I worked here at the hospital in Dumfries. But then I fell in love, as you do, with a Kirkconnell boy. And the pits were just closing down then, and he had a sister in Coventry, and he went down there for work. He went to Dunblane Hydro first to get training in hotel management, and then he went down to Coventry, and I followed him when I was 18. And I stayed with my aunt who lived just outside Coventry, and 3 years later, we got married, and I was in secretarial, he was in the hotel industry, and in the end, I gave up my career in secretarial and joined the industry with him. And we were managers for what they called schooner inns, then Bernie inns. for 14
wow.
years together in Coventry, London, Northampton. Both my girls were born in Northampton. In Edinburgh, they opened up the Lady Nairn Hotel as the flagship for Scotland as a Bernie Inn, and we opened that up.
Wow,
But things always don't work out. So in the end, we separated, and I moved back to Dumfries in 1985 with my two girls. I've got Victoria, who's in her 41 now, and she's got a wee boy Cooper and a wee boy Harrison, 9 and 4. They live in Glasgow, and her husband Steve. And I've got Heather, who's 38, and she lives in Abu Dhabi. And she's a clinical nurse coordinator for a Cleveland clinic. She's got a very high-end job, but she's a career girl. I'd love her to meet someday, but who knows? I tell her never to marry an Arab because, you know, they might take her away from me for good. She says, oh, I might become the third wife. I says, why is that? She says, well, you get the house, the credit card, the car, and you only have to perform once a week. So I said, get me that job. I prefer that job.
Well, when we get you up to the real bachelors club, when after things are back to normal, need to introduce you to Bob Bailey, because Bob's daughter lives out in Abu Dhabi as well. I don't know if you know Bob of Castleflow. He plays the guitar and very often sings at the bachelors club.
But I miss them a lot. But then back in Dumfries, I had friends that had made it school. My dad was still in Sanquhar, and I got a lovely wee house there and brought the kids up near a nice school. It was hard though, being a single parent. I had an ex-husband who was very errant, didn't help towards things. So I had 5 jobs for about 12 years, bringing the kids up. And then the Globe came up, and it was the job for me, I suppose, the job of my dreams with the Burnside. And then I had 25 jobs under one roof. But, you know,
so how long were you at the Globe?
20 years.
Wow.
The one thing I must say, one of my jobs was a retained collector clerk for Pearl Insurance. And I used to go to cover people's books, and I used to go to New Cumnock. Well, it was the best times. I would get my 10 o'clock, I'd get my lunch, I'd get my afternoon tea, I'd get my dinner, as they called it, and if I was running late, I would get some supper. And I always got things in my boot of my car. I would get cabbages, I would get tatties, I would get tomatoes. They were absolutely the salt of the earth, wonderful people. I had some great laughs, and they just, here's Jane, kettle's on, or if you had your lunch at there's a sandwich. It was wonderful. So I have a great affinity when you come up and Ayrshire. I love it.
There must have been some characters that you met at the Globe.
Oh, aye, in the Globe. Amazing characters, not just on the Burnside, your regular bread and butter. You know, lovely guys. And football was involved, and I was part of the team, you know, management side of it, helping them with whatever the pub could do to sponsor them and things like that. So I went to all the games, and there was that, and then there was bands that we formed, or sessions, music sessions, and then of course there was the Burnsians that came. We were always very excited. That wee snug bar would lend itself to music and impromptu. People would just start singing and poetry, and it would be the wee hub for a long, long time. But pubs changed as things went on, and it really got near the end of my retiring. It was changing a lot, but they were the best days when you had your visit, and they were loving it.
Well, you've given us the perfect link, because at this point, I usually hand over to Jim to ask a few questions and get some discussion going about your interest in Burns. So you've given us the perfect segue into that. So over to you, Jim.
Jane, you and I have known one another for quite some considerable time.
Absolutely.
But I'm interested personally, and I'm quite sure everybody listening would be interested, how did you first get involved with Burns? Through
school. I would enter competitions, singing competitions. I was never a great singer, but I got up for it, and they would teach you to sing, you know, your hands clasped like this. like, what that, carry on. And I think I came last a few times with the points, but it didn't bother me. I just liked his songs. And my dad was a bit of a Burnsian. So that, through school, I always had that. But then moving away down to England, you'd lost it for a wee while, you know. And it wasn't until I come back to Dumfries that with Burns being here and Burns suppers that I would go to in folks' houses and things, and I found out that I could recite Burns or talk about Burns in a passionate way, but also make people laugh in like the reply on behalf of the lassies and things. And this was in just people's houses, maybe with 8 or 10 people. And through that, I just became more and more confident. But the biggest turning point probably was, well, I put my name down, Dumfries Ladies Burns Club. 5 years I had to wait to get into Dumfries Ladies Burns Club #1. So I was fair pleased when I joined that. I loved it. But being in the Globe and the House Boys and serving at all their dinners, you know, because no women are allowed apart from the waitresses and myself. So listening to all their speakers, listening to them, going to their library nights, their winter lectures. And then they made me an honorary member. Oh my God, I was speechless. I was greeting for about a week, being an honorary member of the Burns House Club. But that just enhanced my love, my knowledge and my passion. So really, the Globe took it to a different level.
Aye, and as well, I remember, well, not that long ago, you were president of the Scottish Southern Counties, and then of course you moved on to become president of the Robert Burns World Federation. How did you enjoy yourself with that?
Oh, I had a great year. I don't know how all that happened, quite honestly. I became president of the ladies, and it's just a lovely wee group of ladies. Quite happy with that. And then you get nominated. I was on the committee of the SSCB, and then suddenly, and then you're on a committee at RBWF. The next thing you know, you're nominated. I can't believe it that someday. But when I'm put in a position like that, I don't like to let anybody do it. And if I can do the job, I'll do it. So my year at office was absolutely fantastic. I wasn't a president who ran the meeting as such. Well, I did. I managed to run the meetings, but I was more an ambassador that year, because I think Jim will agree, it was a year that needed that. We needed to bring folk back into the fold. And I got the ball rolling with being an ambassador, going 80,000 miles I travelled that year around the world, and they threw their doors open. They were absolutely wonderful. But the team I had at my back, and that's Jim and Peter, they were coming in with a business aspect, and they really turned the Federation round. Know me, them, and what they did was wonderful, and I applaud you, and I couldn't have had a better senior vice. I'm not just saying that because you're sitting there looking at me.
I think you are, but anyway, so what places did you get to on that 80,000 mile journey?
I was in, my furthest away place was Australia, and Camperdown in Australia have the oldest statue of Burns. They had it in a park, and it's Burns sitting down on a tree trunk with the dog and the big hat on. And it was taken over to Camperdown in early 1800s on a ship, and it was put in this park in Camperdown, and it was put in the paper, a big article about being the oldest statue in the world, and it got defaced. They cut the dog's nose off, they cut Burns's earn off, and it was awful. So they moved it into a council building and raised funds to get the same stone sent over from Scotland and got it redone, you know, filled in the gaps kind of thing. And it now sits in a council building. It turns at night and gets lit up so people can see in the window and see it. So they have a big festival for 5 days every year to commemorate this statue. And they asked various Burnsies over to be a keynote speaker, and I was very honoured to be asked, and the hospitality was second to none. And when I pressed the button about the statue, the visitors button, guess whose voice was it? Len Murray.
Wow, fantastic.
Was telling me all about the statue. I went, my God, he's followed me here. But I went to Melbourne Burns Club after that. I went to Ballarat, Bendigo Burns Club after that, and I was hosted everywhere I went. And then, where did I go after that? Adelaide, they were wonderful. They put me up as well. And then I finished off with a wee bit of tourism in the Blue Mountains and Sydney. I was in Vienna, Austria. I didn't know Austria had a Burns Club. Unbelievable. And that was a German journalist who had been in the Globe and must have friends in Austria, and passed my name on. The next thing, I'm in Vienna doing a Burns supper. And when I'd done the Burns supper, I said, would you go to Graz tomorrow night? It's about 6-hour drive. I had to go away there and do one there because I was there. Belfast, Medicine Hat, Calgary, always all that year, the Urbana conference. And I think just the whole year was wonderful. And I had a wonderful year in the board as well. We all worked really well that year and worked really hard. And as I said, a great team coming behind me, and I've tried to support them as much as I can since then. Yeah, it's been great.
I think you're doing yourself a wee bit of disservice when you give Peter and I the credit, because at the end of the day, somebody has to have the courage to make decisions. And as I've said often, and I've said in print, you had the courage to make these decisions, which were really unpopular at the time, but had to be made. And not only that, for me, you then continue and you take on the responsibility of a conference convener and do a great job there. You must have really enjoyed your years in that committee, because it was fun.
I did. I'm still on the committee. Oh, it's great fun. You don't see a lot. I love chatting to people, but you don't get a lot of time to chat to people. But the A team, as we call ourselves, well, Joe McGinty and Ray Connell and Jean Abraham and that, we just had such fun. And they all knew their jobs. To be a convener was easy peasy because they all knew their jobs. We just worked as a team. It was fantastic. It really was.
And you must have enjoyed the conferences themselves, because you've been at a few.
I've been at quite a lot, aye. It's a shame we didn't do it this year. It's a shame, but it is a great honour. Don't get me wrong, to be Robert Burns Federation President. It was fantastic. And you maybe asked me one of my favourite lines of Burns, and what I picked was from the Tree of Liberty for being President. It was because I thought it matched what we were all standing for at the time. It was like, brethren in a common cause, we'd on each other smile, man, and equal rights and equal laws, we'd gladden every isle, man. And that was my motto for my year, and everywhere I went, I just tried to make folks smile and realise that I'm nothing special. I'm wearing a wonderful chain of office on behalf of a membership, and I'm here just to greet you all and see you all, because we're all Joe Tamson's bairns. It doesn't matter what chain of office you're wearing or anything, we're all the same. And that 4 lines to me from the Tree of Liberty just sums that up.
You must have enjoyed yourself at a few Burns suppers. Have you any highlights for Burns suppers that you could talk to folk about?
Honest to God, I think I've done over 300 Burns suppers or more. I've been doing Burns suppers for about 30 years, I think. I've kept all the programmes and I've got them in folders, pocket folders. And when I'm going to say when I'm old and grey, but I'm already there. I'm going to sit and look through them and try and remember some of them. But no, some of them have just been great. I think, Jim, you'll agree, one of the most emotional Burns suppers in mortal memory that I did was at Greenock. And Greenock's the mother club. And when you do the immortal memory at Greenock, you're made an honorary president at Greenock. Well, it was a great start to the night and everything. I stood up to do my mortal memory and I absolutely froze. The emotion came from my teeth. I could feel it coming all the way up through my body, and the tears just started to run down my face. I couldn't speak for about 2 minutes. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. And I don't know what it was, being the mother club or whatever. It was a wonderful honour, and it was the most emotional I've ever felt doing the immortal memory, although I get a lot of joy out of that. I've done a lot of firsts, being the first woman to speak at various places. But to me, I said that, but it's not really a point. There's no gender in Burns. And I'm as passionate about Burns as probably you two are. So it shouldn't matter on the speaker if they're a male or a female. They're there to give their take on the immortal memory of Burns to a revered club, wherever it may be, and just pass on their take on it and their passion on it. So I was never one for saying, I'm your first lady speaker kind of thing. But in Calgary, I was the first lady speaker. There was 540 men there. And they'd never had a lady speaker before. This great big hall with a big video screen and everything. And I had a really bad cold coming across in the plane. And you're blowing your nose all the time. And when the big screen, I did the screen test and that, you could see all these flaky bits on my nose with blowing my nose. So I had to go to the chemist and get all this cream because I was coming up the screen with a big flaky nose. And it was hilarious. But I stood up and said, just to break the ice, you'll like this one. I said, I've never been in a room with 540 men before. But if you just like to line up, I'll do my best. Guess what? Nobody lined up.
Oh, dear.
It definitely broke the ice, that's for sure.
You mentioned, Jane, that you were an honorary member of the House Club when you were at the Globe. Is there any other clubs that you've been associated with over the years?
Yes, I'm an honorary member of Fauld House and Croft Head, the old F&C.
Yeah.
God, I've forgotten who I'm all a member. I'm the treasurer of Dumfries Ladies. I'm the treasurer of Dumfries and Galloway Burns Association, and I was the treasurer at Ellisland, but I don't know how that's going to work out now. I think I'll probably still help, just taking the raffle money whenever we get back to normal, things like that, and the ticket money. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. I can't even remember everywhere I've been, but I'm involved with such a lot of clubs, and over the years, I'm the patron of Medicine Hat Burns Club in
Very
Medicine.
good.
They have a Jolly Beggars banquet for 37 men in September, just after you become president, and I got invited over to do this speech, and they provided me with an aide de camp. And being a wee Sanka lassie, I didn't care what that meant. But it was a bodyguard, and it was this big 6'5", 29-year-old Canadian Mountie. Result, I thought.
Who needs your 540 men?
He stood, there was only 35, he's 37. He stood by my side all night guarding the chain on my neck and everything. It was wonderful. But no, I could probably write a book about all my adventures. There's so many.
And in attending all these Burns events, is there any particular favourite piece that you have that you use at these Burns events?
Well, I do have my own immortal memory that I do that nobody else does, and it's dressing up as Jean. And when in 2003, the House Club was part of the task force who thought we would raise a statue to Jean. And a very good friend of mine, David Gillis from Annan, who's a great bard, he wrote me this Jean Armour immortal memory in rhyme with the help of myself, just getting it right. But he put it all to rhyme, wonderful. And that was for me to raise funds for the statue. Wherever I went and did that speech, I got a donation. And also when I was doing tours through the globe, I took donations in a tub. And I raised about £2,000 myself for the statue. If you ever see me up there cleaning her feet with a scrubbing brush, it's because I paid for them. But no, so that has taken me, that immortal memory has taken me all over the world, all over the world. It's been amazing. It's opened so many doors for me. And it's a wee bit different. I don't know if you heard it. You've heard it? You heard it?
I've not heard it, no.
I certainly have, yeah, a couple of times.
At Kilmarnock when I first met you, Jim.
I did it at Kilmarnock, and you did it at the Kilmarnock House Club's, what do you might call it, the Clutie Dumpling night as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where you did the thing about the globe with the wee model and all that as well. You still taking that model around about and doing the globe?
No, they've got it locked away now. I'm sure they would lend me it if I wanted it, though, I'm sure. But it's quite nice to publicise. I went to their exhibition in Glasgow, the Expo, and we had the wee model there, and I was dressed up as Jean to try and promote that side of the globe for them, as well as somebody else was doing commercial side. That was good fun. Got a lot of pictures taken with Chinese and Japanese.
Because although you're no longer the manager of the Globe, you've still got connections there, haven't you?
Yeah, they still get me in to do tours. Because the couple, Teresa Church and David Thompson, when they bought Annandale, they came to the Globe for the Christmas dinner, Christmas party. And part of the party was me doing them a tour. And they blame me to this day for them buying the Globe because they said they could see the passion that I had on the tour and showing them around. They absolutely loved it. And then they just saw when the Globe came up, they had to go and buy it and keep it as a legacy. And I must say, I saw it the other day, the rooms have been refurbished, the museum rooms, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job. It's never going to be the pub that was. It's restaurant and food really, but the museum side is what it should have always been. It's wonderful. And they're keeping that as a legacy for Dumfries.
Certainly, having seen some of the pictures on Facebook, they seem to be making a really quality job of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love doing the tours, showing people around. I'd love to. One of the reasons I was in Indianapolis through a couple just coming in to do the tour, and they got in touch and said they'd been in touch with the committee. The committee said yes, and they flew me over to Indianapolis. In fact, I was back twice doing that. So it opened so many doors for me. It really did.
Tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I had never heard your immortal memory dressed as Jean, but I have seen you dressed as Jean, and that was in Mauchline Kirk on a Holy Fair Day when you did Tracy Harvey's Missus.
Yeah, I did Tracy Harvey's Missus, who she's quite capable of doing it herself now, but she was quite nervous to start with. And it was a fabulous bit of writing, the monologue, it's just wonderful. And Rab Wilson said, I've got the very woman that'll do it for you. And Tracy and I and Rab would meet at his house for Scots language lessons. So I could get it right for her. But now she does it herself, and she's, I have just so much time. What a talent that lassie's got.
She's tremendous. We were talking to Tracy on a podcast last week, so hopefully that will be on YouTube in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Oh,
brilliant, brilliant. One of the stories from the Globe, it was really quite funny. There was a crowd of Swedish ladies I was showing around, and I always recite this wee bit, but it's actually a song, and I'll just try it now, and it's to Anna Park. Yestrina had a pint of wine, a place where bodies sauna. Yestreen lay on this breast o' mine, the golden locks o' Anna. Come in thy raven plumage night, sun, moon and stars withdrawn, and bring an angel pen to write my transport's way, my Anna. And when I stopped, this woman says, oh, you've made me so emotional. You've given me chicken pox. And I says, don't you mean goosebumps, Hen? And she went, yes, goosebumps. She went, chicken pox is a disease.
It's a beautiful song.
Oh, it's a lovely song, and not many people sing it. But I usually say I don't normally sing it, but I did think you might want just a wee song for it.
Oh, that was lovely. The person who does sing it is a good friend of ours, John Moran, who used to be with a band called Deaf Shepherd, and John helped us a lot with the Lepreek Festival, and John does a beautiful rendition of that on the volume that Fred Freeman did. You know, the sort of 12 CD volume. It's really excellent.
I've been in a few CDs people have made for various things, usually talking about Jean Armour or something. I remember, was it going up to Glasgow to record just a wee saying, we all put a wee bit something in. It was to raise funds, I think, for the Federation at the time, I'm not sure. But no, it's enhanced my life so much. I don't know what I'd do with it, Burns. I really don't.
And have you got any heroes in the Burns story?
Oh,
Obviously Jean Armour, but any other heroes?
I think Jean Armour really is up there, and Burns himself. I just can't go by him. I've been doing this every day. I've been writing a quote, Burns quote of the day since lockdown. And I think I could do a Burns quote of the day till I was 100, because his work's amazing. And looking through his books, the book, I've been just finding new poems that I've never read before, and finding verses that are apt for what's happening during the day. And it's just been amazing. It really has. And being involved with Ellisland is good as well, to think he walked along there, the riverbank, and the Tam O'Shanter, writing Tam O'Shanter, supposedly walking up and doing and shouting and things. Just the thought of it. And the wounded hare, think he would do that, you know, as well. So it's just, we're steeped in it here. And I mean, I know you're steeped in it in Ayr Alloway as well, but I just feel here we've got him. And I often go just sit by the mausoleum. Somebody put a tree trunk up at the gate the other day, the front door. I don't know what they did that for it, but we got it moved away. And the wreaths are still there from January, because the council's not been obviously functioning to full extent. So they're all still in there, but they actually look dried, like dried flowers now. So they're not rotten, they're more dried. So he's still got them, which is nice.
And it's good that we've got a crony, Bobby Guess, with his tours of Dumfries now, because I think that was something that was needed.
Well, I'm his apprentice. Did you know that, Jim? You were maybe mine, but I'm his. So I help him out if he's got a big group, and I'll do the Globe. And if he can't make it one day for one of his other duties somewhere, he's asked me to, and I've been doing some studying. There's a lot about Dumfries I didn't know. I'm more Burns, but there's loads about Dumfries, and he includes a lot of that. So he's been giving me homework.
And I hear he's been bribing you with cakes.
Well, so far, I've had a nice wee bit of bacon. Him and Mary were out a walk on Saturday morning, and it was very good, I'll tell you.
It tells us all about the cakes. We had an interesting discussion today. We had to come up with a recipe for a dish, and all the ingredients had to be found in a Burns's poem.
Oh, that would be fun.
It was a bit of a challenge.
Did anyone have a sheep's head?
No, nobody had a sheep's head. Everybody went a wee bit up market. I think Jim Thompson was the one that went for the most extreme.
Fricassee or something?
No. I just did a beef ragu, basically. Slightly posher than that, but that was the gist there.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any truth in the what a lot of people think, that he wrote the haggis because he was doing stairs in Edinburgh with the servants, and they had haggis, and he wasn't allowed to go in the front door. He had to go in the servants' entrance. So he wrote the haggis to get at the toffs upstairs. I don't know if that's a true story or no.
Well, given that the first verse, which is the last verse of the poem, was written in Mauchline before he ever went to Edinburgh, I think there's no so much truth in that.
Oh, well.
Because he wrote the last verse was written in Mauchline, and then when he went to Edinburgh, he wrote the first 7 verses to preface the last verse.
And Jane, have you got any other ambitions within your Burns career? Anything else that you'd like to achieve?
Just to carry on the work of Burns. I don't think I can achieve much more than what I've had. I've had my accolades. It's been amazing. But I think more and more into encouraging the kids. We have a great schools competition, as you do in Ayrshire, but Dumfries and Galloway sometimes do really, really well at the nationals. And I'm the treasurer for that as well. I'm on that committee, and we really encourage the youngsters as much as we can. We had a Browwell ceremony there recently. We did virtually. We got 2 of the youngsters to do 4 lines. A man was made to mourn. We did the whole poem, but we had to be seen to be encouraging these kids. And I think I'm also encouraging people a wee bit younger than me into positions that I think they'll do well in, you know, like Fiona Evans, who's just become president of Dumfries and Galloway Burns Association. She's going to be a star. She's coming on. And there's Emma Harper, who I got involved. And Emma wouldn't you said Beauty a Goose a way back, and she's just shined, and she's now an MSP.
Yeah.
You know, so it's people I kind of have an eye for, and I try to just encourage them, and we've got to keep it going. So that's all I'm trying to do, really. I can't think of anything else. I've got a goal in mind for any position or anything,
Yeah.
but just to be forever be able to, with the old age creeping up, continue with the memory and being able to go out there and entertain people by making them laugh, as well as being passionate about burns. I think that's what's most important. And that's what worries me, that leaves me, that you have to sort of realise it before you keep going, and folks say, oh, she used to be good.
And anywhere, any other place in the world you're planning on going to once we get out of lockdown?
Well, I've got supposed to be in Edmonton in January. They've never had a lady speaker either, and they saw Calgary got me, so I'm supposed to be going to Edmonton, but I really don't think it'll happen. January's maybe a bit too soon, especially with Canada. They're quite strict, like Scotland is, with the incoming and going. And just, I'm a wee bit scared myself, the thought of going in a plane for a wee while. Do you know what I mean? I know air gets filtered and all the rest of it, but it's just a kind of worry.
I think it'll be a wee while before I'm certainly travelling, because we go across the Atlantic as well to visit my daughter who lives over there, and I don't really have a notion of going this year, but hopefully we'll get there next year. So I think I'm sure Edmonton will be happy to wait for you.
Well, let's hope so. And I do enjoy the Rabanas. I've been going to the Rabanas since I was president, and they're a great bunch of people. We've got some fabulous folk there, and great readers like Les Strach and Ronnie O'Byrne have met at conference, Jim. They're great guys, and Henry, of course, is coming up as our junior vice. I've really enjoyed that, but then again, this isn't going to make you stop. There's insurance to think about, and you know, the stopping to think about getting on planes and things now. Where was it going to be this year? Oh, Atlanta. It was cancelled, but I did manage to get into Texas, into Houston there in January. I managed to get that one done, and that was a great time. They really treated me right royally. It's great fun.
Very good. Well, I think we're nearly running out of time. So is there anything else that you want to tell us about? Because it's just between the three of us.
Don't know. I think I could probably talk forever about some of the stories, but I just know that Burns has enhanced my life. Definitely has. And it's opened so many doors. Jim?
Well, I would like to say that you've enhanced a lot of Burnsians' life in terms of your speaking, and you've been very modest, because you've no mentioned the fact that the Burns Federation recognised all your hard work and your endeavours over the years. You haven't mentioned that at all tonight.
Well, it doesn't matter, I just do it.
Well, I think it does matter, because I think recognition of all the hard work is really important. And you were certainly recognised, and you may be too modest to say, but I'll say you did really well.
Thank you very much.
And I'm glad they did what they did, because that recognition is merited.
That's very
so in what way did they recognise you, Jane?
Oh, they made me honorary president of the Robert Burns World Federation.
That's fantastic.
My certificate up there. But hey, they made him, you know, for what he did.
Well, I think in both of you, it was richly deserved.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were a team, weren't we, Jim?
Aye, well, as I say, I was a sorcerer's apprentice. I just did what I was told, and I had a great time just doing what I was told.
We did have a really good, tight-knit team, and I think we just did so much for the Federation between us as a group. It was wonderful. We met some smashing folk, and it's just a matter of keeping it going and getting the funds in, and it's very difficult. Everywhere's the same, isn't it? You've got Ellison now looking for funds. We've got a great new board there, and I think they'll do really well. When we get back to it, I'll still be a friend of Ellison, as they call it, and still do a bit of volunteering there, keep involved with the schools, keep involved with all my clubs. I just love it. And my kids know I love it. My grandkids, you know, they I say, who's that Robert Burns? When they could hardly speak, they knew it was Robert Burns, showing them photos.
Yeah.
And wee
Well,
Cooper was doing well at school. He did a few Scottish things like say a finger and stuff like that. But for my 70th, they recited my Bonnie Bell to me. For my 70th birthday, I was howling. That was his wee gift to his granny for her 70th. Because I had a strange birthday this year being in lockdown. But it was wonderful because there's so many nice things happen. Like Bobby did the virtual birthday poem for me, and my daughter got lots of people to come on and do a happy birthday from relatives and friends. And wee Cooper, who's 9 now, he did my Bonnie Bell. And then he went, and you're my Bonnie Bell. As you can imagine, because you're over emotional at the moment. You know, you really are. But you're all good friends. I mean, this is what I like about the Burns fraternity, the friendship and the camaraderie. And everybody should remember, Burns should be fun. None of this nonsense that goes on behind the scenes, the bickering, the backstabbing. You get that in life. That's life. But for Burns, we should just be really enjoying it. It's like a sponge, in it. It comes into your heart. We can't get it out. It's mind-blowing.
Well, Jane, that's a perfect way for us to end this session. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving up your time and telling us about your life with Robert Burns. Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real honour, and I've enjoyed the blether, as they say. Love yous.